Welcome to EEE 2232 Basic Electrical and Electronics Measurements Module 2, which is the second module of this video lecture series. In Module 1, we considered some basic principles in measurements. We looked at voltage, we looked at basic terms like current, frequency, and period. And we used the virtual laboratory, live wire virtual laboratory, and we explained that in the absence of a physical laboratory, sometimes we have to make do with virtual laboratories to run virtual experiments, to try and mimic what the physical experiments would produce. And today we will continue in that vein. We will extensively work on the live wire virtual laboratory. We'll continue in that vein today. And in hindsight, actually, this video lecture series, both for this course and for EE 2234, it would have been easier to make this video lecture series if we had a digital screen and a digital pen like you find in Microsoft Surface Pro, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's at 6 now or 7. Or a laptop with a touch screen and a digital pen, a smart pen. It probably would have been easier in hindsight to make video lectures that way. No one anticipated this kind of scenario where we'll have to make our lectures digital, or make our lectures video lectures instead of physical lectures. But if you had that, probably would move faster in video lecture series, because probably it's faster writing than typing. But in the absence of an ideal scenario, we'll make do with what we have. So bear with me in this video lecture series. There are some concepts that we probably will spend more time on than we ought to, if due to the speed of typing and drawing circuits with software instead of just drawing the circuit manually by hand, which would have probably been faster. But the important thing is for you to grasp the concepts and follow through as I make the explanation. So I implore you to pay attention, and if there's any part of this video lecture you don't understand or you have problem grasping, you can go over the video once again. That is a good thing about having video lectures, unlike a physical lecture where you can't rewind what the lecturer said. Basically, here you can rewind, so take advantage of this. So it's not all doom. It's a silver lining to this video lecture series. So let's start. Let's switch over to live wire laboratory. I'll also make use of PowerPoint today. PowerPoint for some written explanation. Last video lecture series I used a small whiteboard, but I was not too satisfied by the video quality, so I decided to scrap that idea and just make use of PowerPoint this time around. But because I'll actually be typing the explanations, the notes, the calculations, instead of writing it with a digital pen on a digital capacitive touch screen, I probably will not convey as much information as I probably would if I had that, which in that side we probably should have made arrangement for. But what can we do? We just make do with it. So I'll make use of PowerPoint and live wire for today's lecture, and probably for the rest of this video lecture series. That will be the order that our video lecture series will take from now on. So let's switch over to PowerPoint and live wire, and get your pens and paper ready and pay attention. So Let's continue. Let's start by looking at some exercises. We'll look at some exercises. They are quite similar to the assignments that I gave last module. So we're looking at the exercises, and we use that to examine a lot of concepts about measuring voltage and current in electrical or electronic circuits. So let's get the battery, two batteries. We'll start from the first exercise. We get a load, a 1K load resistor. We want to measure or determine the voltage or the potential difference across the resistor. You connect the first battery, positive to one end, positive to the second end. Then you connect the negatives together. Let's drag this up a bit. This circuit is familiar. I'm sure you're familiar with this. It's similar to one of the circuits in the assignments of module 1. You can let's change the voltage value of the first battery to about 8 volts, and the second one, right click, properties, you change it to about 2.5 volts, or 2.4 volts rather. Let's make it 2.4 volts. Okay, so we want to measure the voltage across this 1K resistor. Let's see if we can adjust the cable here to lift it up a bit. Now let's get our voltmeter under measuring instruments, voltmeter. Now we connect the voltmeter across the load resistor. In order to measure the voltage across that resistor, we connect the voltmeter across it. So let's drag this cable up a bit, move the resistor up, click, left click and drag, click, left click, click, connect, click, connect. So we've connected the voltmeter across the load resistor. Let's insert the text box, do some labeling. The first battery, or the first DC voltage source, let's label it V2. Place it beside the battery or the DC voltage source, and copy and paste. We call this V3, V1, then it should be V3 actually. Okay, let's break it down here. The second voltage source should be V1, and then V3 is voltage across the load resistor as measured by the voltmeter. Let's go back to exercise. Minimize. Let's see if we can place this side by side. Zoom out. To zoom out, right click, multiple times to zoom out. Please excuse the rooster in the background. That's notifying us that it's about 12 noon here. Okay. Now we have this side by side. Let me adjust this. I want to make this visible, or as visible as possible. So regardless of the screen you are viewing this, you should be able to see both windows. Let's move this to the left so we can make some notes in the PowerPoint window and run simulations in the virtual laboratories, do side by side simultaneously to make things easier for us. So I think this should be okay. Okay, let me insert the text box. Insert the text box. In hindsight, probably would have been easier if to use a device such as Microsoft Surface with its pen tool. That's probably the ideal thing for this kind of video lecture series. But in hindsight, probably didn't anticipate something like this happening. So probably I just have to make do with what we have. Okay, so V3, the voltage across the resistor of V3, potential difference is the voltage difference between the two ends of the resistor. So you have V2 on one end and V1 on the other end. So that's V2 minus V1, because V2 has a greater potential than V1. V2 is greater than V1, so that's V2 minus V1. That's 8 volts minus 2.4 volts. And that should give us about 5.6 volts. Right? V3 equal to 5.6 volts DC. 5.6 volts DC. We can confirm that by using a calculator. It's not necessary, but we're making use of calculator quite a lot today. So let's switch from the programmer side to the standard calculator. And that's 8 minus 2.4 equal to 5.6 volts. So that's pretty obvious. So 5.6 volts is the voltage across the load, and remember that voltage is potential difference. So to one terminal of the load we connected an 8 volt DC source, and to the other end we connected a 2.4 volt source. So the potential difference is across, or voltage across, was just the subtraction of the potential levels on both sides of the load. So let's run the simulation to confirm whether our calculation is right. So run. Now we see here that the voltage across the load is 5.54 as determined by the virtual laboratory, but determined by the simulation. Whereas in our calculation we got 5.6 volts. We see that there's a little disparity. So, well, this I won't call it a bug, but what this is trying to say is that there's a little loss of voltage due to the line. It means the resistance or internal resistance of the batteries. It's trying to simulate. So if this were to be a real experiment, you probably would have gotten a similar value like that. So that 5 point. So you have a little. There's usually a little difference between the calculated value and measured value. In calculated value, you are simulating an ideal case if there are no losses due to battery efficiency, internal resistance of the battery, things like that, or the cable you are using. If you are assuming that there's no drop, that it's not a resistor, it's a pure conductor. So there's a little disparity, but in ideal case it should be 5.6 volts. And let's just connect an ammeter in the circuit to measure the current through the 1k ohm resistor. This will be I1. Let's call this current I1. I1. So we see here that we got 5.6 volt across the resistor in calculated value, and then the measured value was about 5.54 volts. So it means that there is a drop across the wire, the cable. So basically the cable is like a resistor on its own, but ideal case it should not be. The resistance should be basically zero. But in actual practice, in actual case, there will be a little drop. So it won't exactly be 5.6 volts as you have in ideal case. In measured in real world, there will be a little drop. When you load the battery, sometimes it's a little drop due to the battery's internal resistance. So, and the simulation actually shows this. So let's try and get the current through the load. We use Ohm's law, V equals IR. We did that last week. So make I subject of formula. I equals V slash R, V over R. I equals V over R. So I1, in this case, I1 is our current. Then small I1 equal to V3. V3 is the voltage across our resistor. So V3 over R1. R1 is our own particular resistor. So V3 over R1, where V3 is V2 minus V1. We've done that before. So I1 equal to V3, which is 5.6 volts in DC, divided by R1, which is 1 kilo ohm. 1 kilo ohm is the same thing as 1000 ohms. Now, one thing you should know is that whenever you're doing calculations, things like kilo, like mega, like micro, like nano, all that should be converted to the standard form. It's converted to the standard units. How do I put this? Like, if you have kilo ohms, convert it to ohms. If you have mega ohms, convert it to ohms. And you divide. So 5.6 volt divided by 1000 ohms, not divided by 1 kilo ohm. You're going to get the wrong answer if you do it that way. So 5.6 divided by 1000 ohms is give us 0.0056. The unit of current is amperes. Amps or amperes. So we can change this. We can change this. It's something as if you move to the right 3 times 1, 2, 3, you have 5.6 times 10 to the power minus 3 amps. So 5.6 times 10 raised to power minus 3 amps. So I1 10 raised to power minus 3 is milli. So that's 5.6 milliamps, milliamperes. 5.6 milliamperes. So that's the current that should flow through. Now here it is 5.54. Measured value not exactly equal to the ideal case, the ideal value. So, but the ideal value is supposed to be 5.6 milliamps, but the measured value here is 5.54. So sometimes you have losses that are not accounted for in the calculations in ideal case that show up when you run the actual experiments. Okay, so let's go to the next exercise. We'll be examining sketch the AC waveforms of the following with the following details: 24 volts RMS, 36 volts peak, and the likes. So of 24 volts RMS. Now we want to sketch the waveform, the AC waveform that has 26 volt RMS value. We want to sketch it. Now, to determine that, we need to know what the peak voltage equivalent is. When you sketch an AC waveform, the top of the waveform or the peak of the waveform is determined by the peak voltage, and it's not the RMS value. Sometimes it's not where the voltage rises above the RMS value and gets to the V peak. So we need the V peak. So we need the V peak equivalent for 24 volt RMS. So remember during the last module that we give an expression or an equation that expresses the relationship between RMS voltage and V peak, peak voltage. That RMS voltage is V peak over root 2. So equation, click on equation. We want to insert the square root symbol somewhere around here. So root 2. So RMS voltage is peak voltage over root 2. So with that, you can now determine what V peak is by making V peak the subject of formula. So we need is V peak that we need. So V peak equal to VRMS should be multiplied by root 2. Multiplied by, let's copy and paste, root 2. So in this case, V peak is VRMS, which is 26 volts, multiplied by VRMS 26 volts VRMS root mean square. RMS means root mean square. We did that last week. Last module. Multiply by root 2. That gives us let's check. Let's use a calculator. 20. Okay, root 2. Let's start again. Root 2 first, then root of 2. Multiply by 26 equal to 36.769. That's like 36.77 if you approximate it. 36.77 volts V peak. So we see here that our V peak is 36.77 volts. So thus 26 volt RMS is the same thing as 36.77 volts V peak. So we can now sketch the waveform now. Since we know the peak voltage, it's easy for us to sketch it. So since I don't have a Microsoft Surface Pro or a laptop with a touch screen and a touch pen, if I had that, it probably have easy for me to sketch it. But since I don't have that, I will just use an oscilloscope to show the waveform. So I'll delete the other instruments. We don't need this. Delete V1, delete V3. Still leave I think we need to delete the voltage source too, because now you are working with AC voltage source. So we delete the DC voltage source. Power supply, AC voltage source, drag, drop, drag and place, drag it, right click, let's change the properties. V1, let's make it V1 so it matches the label. Right click, properties, and the RMS voltage, we can adjust the RMS voltage. The RMS voltage now, there's no option for us to feed in our V peak, so it's RMS voltage we have to feed. So our RMS voltage is 26 volts. 26 volts. Now the frequency, let's leave it as 1 hertz for now. We don't need to worry about frequency. The question didn't ask us to bother with frequency for now. So let's get our measure instrument. Scroll down, oscilloscope, drag and place, then connect positive to positive of channel 1. We're using channel 1, and then channel 2, negative to negative for the battery, and then right add graph. We click on add graph so we can see the waveform that's being generated. Properties of the graph, Now the maximum, now you want the maximum to be beyond, to be higher than 36.77. You want it to be, or at least maybe than 37, so that we'll be able to see the peak of the AC voltage. So 37. Then the minimum too will also mirror what we have at the maximum. So the minimum will be minus 37. Minus 37. 0, minus 1. Let's make it backspace. Minus 37. The time, we can make it maybe 10 seconds. Okay. So we see here from, let's run the simulation. Okay. We see that the peak is almost at 37. That shows that the V peak is 36.77 volts. Although the RMS voltage is 26 volts, the AC signal rises above 26 volts and rises all the way to 36.77 volts. Let's drop down the time a bit so that let's increase the time 50 seconds. Okay, that's too the time is too long. Let's make the time short so we can see the waveform clearly. Make it 1 second or 2 seconds. Okay. So you see that you see the wave here. So you see that the peak is around almost 37 volts. It's actually 36.77 volts. So if you increase the maximum to maybe about 40 and minus 40, let's make it 40. You see that there's now space. So that point is around 37. So it doesn't get to 40 volts. It stops at 36.77 volts V peak. So if you were to sketch this 36.7, if you were to sketch this AC waveform that has an RMS voltage of 26, if you were to sketch it on your notepad or your exercise notebooks or on your Microsoft Surface tablets with a digital pen, the peak of your waveform should be at 36.77 volts. Even though the RMS voltage is 26 volts. So see that the RMS is 26 volts, but the actual waveform, the actual voltage rose above 26 and got to 36.77 volts V peak. And then after it got to 0, it dropped all the way down to minus 36.77 V peak. So positive V peak and negative V peak. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We want to sketch the waveform for a voltage signal that has 36 volts V peak. So what is the RMS voltage equivalent? Now remember that unfortunately in this in the live wire virtual laboratory, if you the settings, the properties for the AC voltage source, you can only feed in your RMS voltage. There's no space to feed in. There's no option to feed in V peak. So it means that we have to generate the RMS voltage, even though we already have the V peak. If you have to sketch this, you might probably don't need the VRMS. Just sketch it and make 36 volts your V peak. But because live wire virtual laboratory doesn't have option for V peak, so we have to find the VRMS. I remember the formula V peak over root 2. So 36 volts is V peak. So 36 volts divided by root 2, that's 2, and then square root. So equal to 36 divided by root 2, that's equal to 25.46 volts. So 25.46 volts is our RMS equivalent. So the RMS voltage equivalent for 36 volts V peak is 25. What is it again? RMS voltage equivalent for 36 V peak is 25.46 volts. That's the RMS equivalent. So we can now feed this value into our live wire virtual laboratory, and then on the oscilloscope we will see the waveform. And by the time the waveform forms 100% most likely, or 100% definitely, the peak of that voltage, or that voltage, AC voltage signal, the peak will be at 36 volts, even though our RMS voltage is 25.46 volts. The RMS voltage is 25.46 volts. The V peak will actually be 36 volts. The voltage will rise above the RMS voltage of 25.46 to rise above that, and to get to peak or reach a maximum of 36 volts, which is the V peak. So 36 volt V peak is the same thing, or is equal to 25.46 volts RMS. So let's minimize this. Right click, properties. So the only option we have here is RMS voltage. There's no V peak option here, so we have to fill in the RMS voltage, which is 25.46 volts. We can leave the frequency at 1 hertz for now. We don't need to worry about frequency. So we feed that in, and then if you plot the graph, you see that the peak has not gotten to, the peak doesn't get to 40 volts. Let's reduce it 36 and minus 36 plot. So see that it is right at its peak. It peaks at 36 volts because 36 volts is the V peak. Even though we fed 25.46 as the RMS voltage, the V peak is 36 volts. So let's go to the next. The next one says 80 volts V peak to peak. 80 volts V peak to peak. So we are going to see the difference between V peak to peak, or the difference between peak to peak voltage and peak voltage. There's a difference between peak voltage and peak to peak voltage. So they said we also sketch the waveform of an 80 volt peak to peak AC signal. 80 volt peak to peak AC signal. So just as the name applies, or implies rather, peak to peak. So from the maximum to the minimum, if you measure the voltage, is 40 volts. So 80 volts peak to peak is an AC signal, just as the name implies, that you can divide. Is half of it is on the upper cycle and half of it on the lower cycle. So it's an AC signal of 40 volt V peak and minus 40 volts. So the maximum is plus 40 volts and the minimum is minus 40 volts. So if you have a peak to peak voltage, just divide it by 2. Divide that value by 2. Half of it will be the positive V peak and the other half will be the negative V peak. So when you measure from one peak to the other peak, from the positive peak to the negative peak, whatever value you get there is your V peak to peak. So the V peak to peak contains both maximum and minimum. So if you want to extract your V peak from your V peak to peak, just divide your V peak to peak by 2. And from there you can extract your V peak from it. So for an 80 volt V peak to peak AC signal, your V peak is 40 volts. That's your maximum, and your minimum is minus 40 volts. Simply divide 80 by 2. So now that we have our we can generate V peak from V peak to peak. We cannot generate VRMS. So VRMS is simply V peak divided by root 2, and thus the RMS voltage for an 80 volt V peak to peak AC signal is simply the V peak, which is 40 volts now, divided by root 2. So we can derive the VRMS. So what's the RMS voltage? The RMS voltage is 40 divided by root 2. So we need the RMS voltage, which is 28.28 volts, because our virtual laboratory, the live wire voltage source, we need to get the RMS voltage and not V peak. So the RMS voltage for an 80 volt peak to peak signal is, the RMS voltage is 28.28, which we derived by first of all obtaining the V peak from the V peak to peak. We divide the peak to peak voltage by 2 to get the V peak, and then we divide the V peak by root 2 to get the VRMS. So thus 80 volts V peak to peak is the same thing as 28.28 volts RMS. So we adjust the properties of voltage, AC voltage source. Right click and go to properties, change RMS voltage to 28.28 28.28 volts. We leave the frequency as it is, 1 hertz, and then we simulate. Okay, we see that it rose above to a 36. See that there's a clip, it cuts it as 36. It's because the V peak is higher than 36. So let's adjust the maximum. Adjust the maximum to the 40 and minimum to 40 because our V peak is 40. Remember, our V peak is 40 now. So okay. So see that the graph has changed. We can now see the peak. Before, when it was 36, we could not see the peak because the V peak was higher than 36. The V peak is 40. Now we can see the V peak is now at 40. We can see the peak. It gets to 40 before dropping and then minus 40. So positive 40, plus 40 is the maximum, minus 40 is the minimum. So between plus 40 and minus 40 is oscillating between plus 40 and minus 40. So that's the positive V peak and negative V peak. Plus V peak, negative V peak. Plus V peak is plus 40, negative V peak is minus 40. We got that by dividing the peak to peak voltage by 2. So if you subtract the V peak from a minus V peak, that's 40 minus 40. That turns to 40 plus 40, which gives us 80. So if you have a V peak and you want to get V peak to peak, just simply multiply the V peak by 2. You get your V peak to peak. So one peak is plus 40, the second peak is minus 40. So plus 40 minus 40, that gives us 40 plus 40, which gives us 80. So the next one says obtain the peak voltages for the following RMS voltage values. That's 320 volts. So obtain the RMS voltage of this. That's quite easy. It's quite easy if you've done that already, but we can do that again. So 320 volts RMS. We have to get the peak voltage. That is quite easy. Just substitute 320 volt RMS, multiply it by root 2. So 320 volts multiplied by 2 root 2 equal to 452.55. So 452.55 volts is the V peak. 452.55 volts is the V peak. So thus 320 volts RMS is the same thing as 452.55 volts V peak. So they're equivalent basically. The next one says we've done the rest. So obtain the RMS voltage of the following V peak. It's basically the opposite of what we've done. So if your V peak is 180 volts, what is the RMS? So replace 36 here with 180 volts V peak. So what is the RMS voltage? What's the RMS equivalent? Replace 180 here. So 180 volts divided by root 2. 180 volts divided by root 2. You need a calculator for that. 180 volts. 180 divided by root 2. Root 2 equal to 127.27. That's 127.28. Right, 127.28 volts. That's the RMS equivalent for a peak voltage of 180 volts V peak. 127.28. Now, if you use your multimeter to measure an AC voltage that has 180 volts V peak, what the multimeter will show you is 127.29. The multimeter won't show you the peak voltage. The multimeters measure RMS voltage of an AC signal. So I think we mentioned that last week or last module, during the last module, module 1. So let's go. How many complete cycles are there in AC voltage of the following frequencies? 190, 22.3 kilohertz, 99.9 megahertz, and 7.21 gigahertz. So let's examine the next exercise. Delete, paste, copy, paste. Let's drag this up a bit. Take it up. So how many complete cycles are there in the AC voltages of the following frequencies? So we are given about 4 different AC voltage waveforms or AC voltages. They have frequencies. We don't know what their voltages are. It doesn't matter. What are their is the frequencies we are. So yes, there's an error in this. It's actually how many complete cycles in 1 second. I forgot to add 1 second. You cannot. You can't actually count the number of complete cycles in total. It's infinite. As long as the signal source is on, there will always be complete cycles being formed. So it's how many of those complete cycles are there in 1 second. That is what the question should say. So I forgot to add that. Because without adding the 1 second, it's actually infinity. The answer should be infinity. As long as the signal source is on, if it's on for 5 years, they will continue. You will continually have more and more. You continually have more and more complete cycles for those 5 years. So it's infinite. It's indeterminate, but you can determine how many complete cycles you have in 1 second. So let's see. So if for I've jumped the gun a bit here by saying that 190 hertz is 190 complete cycles in 1 second. But if for 1 hertz, let's start from 1 hertz. So let me jump the gun. Let me go back. For 1 hertz is actually 1 complete cycle in 1 second, and 2 hertz it's 2 complete cycles in 1 second. So that means automatically 190 hertz is 190 complete cycles in 1 second. Then 5 hertz is equal to 5 complete cycles in 1 second. 5 complete cycles in 1 second. Then so if 1 hertz is 1 complete cycle, 2 hertz is 2 complete cycles, 3 hertz is 3 complete cycles, then 190 hertz should be 190 complete cycles. Let's confirm that. So right click, properties. Let's leave the RMS voltage. You don't need to bother about that. We are worried about frequency. So frequency of 1 hertz. So we want to see, okay, we want to see, let's change the properties here. Let's make it time, 1 second time. So in 1 second, this is 0, 1, 2. Okay, this is actually showing us 2 seconds. Let's make it 0.5. Okay. So from the time is from 0 to 1000 milliseconds. So that's 1 second. This is actually a 1 second gap from 0 to 1. So you see that this is 1 complete cycle. See, only 1 cycle, 1 complete cycle. So but there's a slight bug a bit in this oscilloscope, in that the starting point is actually shifting. Starting point is shifting, but the complete cycle still remains the same. Where it starts from is where it ends. That's what makes it a complete cycle. So let's change this to 1 millisecond. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Okay, it gives us actually 2 seconds. So it's another bug. Let's ignore that. So we see that. Let's stop here. Let's see. We see here. Let's run it, and it says it starts from 0 and stops at 0 here. This is 1 second. So this is 1 complete cycle in 1 second. Although there are 2 seconds in this graph, the starting point. See that starting point is shifting. It's shifting. Let's change properties. Let's take it back to 0.5. So that we have just 1 second. This is 1 second. Let me see if I can stop it in the nick of time. Play, stop. The starting point keeps on shifting, but we've seen that we have 1 complete cycle in 1 second. Let's increase the frequency to 2 hertz. That's 2 complete cycles in 1 second. So this is 1 second, 2 cycles, 1 and 2 complete cycles in 1 second. So this is 2 complete cycles in 1 second. Because our frequency has changed to 2 hertz, our frequency is now 2 hertz. So we have 2 complete cycles in 1 second. One cycle starts once the voltage starts from 0 and ends in 0. That's 1 complete cycle. Up and down. So let's go to 5 hertz. So 5 hertz should be 5 complete cycles in 1 second. Let's see if that is the case. So we're going to have complete cycles, 5 complete cycles in 1 second. Let's see if we can pause it in the nick of time. We have 5, play, stop. So we have 5 complete cycles from 0, maximum, minimum, 0, 1 cycle. 0 maximum minimum 0, 2 cycles, 0 maximum minimum 0, 3 cycles, 0 maximum minimum 0, 4 cycles, 0 maximum minimum, it should be 0 if we play it again, it will reach 0. So that's 5 complete cycles in 1 second. So that is 5 hertz. So when you say 5 hertz signal, you are saying there are 5 complete cycles in 1 second. So the voltage rises to V peak, goes back to 0, drops to minus V peak, goes back to 0. That is 1 complete cycle. It repeats that 5 times in 1 second. So properties. So let's go to 190 hertz. In fact, there'll be so many. That's 190. So we can't even discriminate it. So it's so tiny. So there are basically 190 complete cycles in 1 second. 190 complete cycles in 1 second. So it's hard for us to see that on our virtual oscillator. So let's go for the next one. The next one is 22.32 kilo hertz. So we want to see how many complete cycles. We want to determine how many complete cycles in 1 second we'll be able to obtain from 22.32 kilohertz. So 22.32 kilohertz is the same thing as 22320. Kilo is times 10 raised to the power 3. That's 3 zeros. So if you move the dot or the point to the right 3 times, we get 22320 hertz. So that means there are 22,320. Okay, let me drop the gun. Let me follow the process. Let me skip this step. So that's 22.32 multiplied by 10 raised to power 3. Kilo is 10 raised to power 3. So 22.32 kilowatts is the same thing as 22.32 times 10 raised to power 3 hertz. So that's, if you multiply that, will give you 22320 hertz, 22,320 hertz. So that automatically translates, or that means that for a 22.32 kilowatt, that there are 22,320 complete cycles in 1 second. So if you generate a 22.32 kilowatt signal, if you generate that kind of signal, you're actually going to have 22,320 complete cycles in 1 second. So the signal, the voltage will rise to V peak, drop to minus V peak, and go back to 0. To do that 22,320 times in 1 second, that's a lot. So let's go to 99.99 megahertz signal. Let's see how many complete cycles are there. So that 99.99 mega is 10 raised to the power 6 times 10 raised to the power 6. Mega is 10 raised to the power 6. Kilo is 10 raised to the power 3. That's times 10 raised to the power 6 hertz. So that's 99.99 times 10 raised to the power 6 hertz. So 10 raised to the power 6, that's 6 zeros. That means you move the dot to the right 6 times. So you move it 1, 2 times, then the other remaining 4 times zeros. So 4 zeros. 4 zeros after the 2 nines, the 2 extra nines. So that is 9999000 hertz. So that is 99,990 complete cycles in 1 second. That is 99 megahertz. So this is the frequency of this is the range of frequency that you have for radio stations. There are radio stations that have 99.99 megahertz. So the radio signal from radio stations can have as much as 99 million complete cycles in 1 second. So that is a very high frequency signal, and it's the range of radio frequencies. So signals, voltage signals, or telecom signals, or radio signals, UHF of signals from radio stations are around this range. So it goes 7.21 gigahertz. So giga is 10 raised to the power 9. Giga is 10 raised to the power 9 hertz. So that's 7.21 times 10 raised to the power 9 hertz. So you move the dot to the right 9 times. So 2 and 1, 2 1 takes care of 2 out of the 9, so it remains 7 zeros. So 7 zeros, that's 72 billion. That's crazy. 72 billion, 72, if I'm right. Oh, sorry, 7.2 rather. So it is 7,210,000,000 complete cycles in 1 second. So this is around the range of this is 7.21 gigahertz, is around the frequency of 5G. Is probably why there's so much rumors, so much fear around 5G network, because people are so afraid of like high frequencies like this. When you have 7 billion fluctuations, 7 billion oscillations in voltage in 1 second, wouldn't that be harmful to a man? So this is where the fear comes in. Or this is where the rumors, would I call it rumors? What's the word? Okay, let's leave that for now. So we've been able to determine the number of complete cycles in a second for various frequencies, various AC signals of various frequencies. Yeah, the word I was looking for was hoax. Yeah, that's the word. So the hoax around 5G networks come from that fear of high frequency signals. So let's go. So what is the period of AC voltages of the following frequencies? So we know that period, we discussed this in module 1 of this lecture series, that period and frequency, they are inversely proportional. So frequency is 1 over period and period is 1 over frequency. So so the period of a the period of a 1 hertz signal, 1 hertz frequency signal, will be 1 over 1 hertz. Since if the frequency is 1 hertz, just find the reciprocal. So 1 over 1 hertz will give us the period of a 1 hertz frequency AC signal. That's 1 over 1 hertz, which equal to 1. 1 over 1 is 1. The unit of period is in seconds. We won't need derivative of second, but basically it's seconds. So a 1 hertz signal will have a complete cycle in 1 second. A 1 hertz signal has 1 complete cycle in 1 second. It takes 1 second for a 1 hertz signal to have a complete cycle. So what about the period of a 2 hertz signal, AC signal, or a 2 hertz waveform? So the period of a 2 hertz waveform is 1 over 2 hertz. My period is 1 over frequency. So the frequency is 2 hertz and the period is 1 over 2 hertz. So 1 over 2 hertz, which is equal to 0.5. The unit is seconds. So you can either write the symbol is S, or you can write the unit in full, seconds. So you can write 0.5 S or 0.5 seconds. So you either use the symbol S, the symbol of the unit, or you write the unit in full, 0.5 seconds. So either is acceptable. So what this means is that for a 2 hertz frequency waveform or an AC signal of 2 hertz, it means that it takes 0.5 seconds for that signal to have a complete cycle. So 1 complete cycle of a 2 hertz signal, that complete cycle forms after 0.5 seconds. So once 0.5 seconds elapses, that signal must have had 1 complete cycle. So let's go. What about the period of an 89 hertz frequency waveform? Let's talk about the period of an 89 hertz frequency waveform. What is the period? It's quite simple. It will be 1 over 89 hertz. 1 over 89 hertz. 1 over 89 hertz. 1 over 89 hertz. We will need a calculator for that. 1 over 89 hertz. 1 over 89. 1 over 89 gives us 0.112 0.011 seconds. If you approximate 0.011 seconds. So this means that it takes 0.011 seconds for an 89 hertz frequency signal to have one complete cycle. So that is the time it takes for it to have one complete cycle. Unlike the 1 hertz frequency signal that takes 1 second to have one complete cycle, and unlike the 2 hertz frequency signal that takes 0.5 seconds. So the higher the frequency, the shorter the period. So let's change the property of our signal. If we take it back to RMS voltage, we don't even need to tap out the RMS voltage. We just need to focus on the frequency. The frequency of 1 hertz. If the frequency is 1 hertz, run the simulation. You see that in 1 second we have one complete cycle. So it takes 1 second to have a complete cycle. 1 second to have a complete cycle for the signal of 1 hertz frequency. It takes 1 second, starts from 0, rises to V peak, goes to negative V peak, and returns back to 0. It takes 1 second. So if you change the frequency from 1 hertz, if you alter it to 2 hertz, okay, simulate, you see that it takes 0.5, it takes 500 milliseconds. 500 milliseconds or 0.5 seconds. Now this is 500 milliseconds. One complete cycle was formed in 0.5 seconds, which is also 500 milliseconds. So you have one complete cycle in 500 milliseconds or 0.5 seconds for a 2 hertz frequency signal. 2 hertz frequency AC signal. So the period is 0.5. The period is 0.5 milliseconds. Oh, sorry, 0.5 seconds, which is also 500 milliseconds. See, it starts from 0, rises to V peak, goes to negative V peak, and returns to 0. That is one complete cycle. So one complete cycle is formed in 0.5 seconds. So 0.5 seconds is the period of a 2 hertz signal. So if we change the frequency to 89 hertz, we see that we can't even see 0.01 seconds. It's so small, it's hard for us to see it. We can't see it on this our virtual oscilloscope. So 0.01 seconds. Let's see if we can convert it to milliseconds. If we move the dots to the right 3 times, 1, 2, 3, we'll have 11. That gives us 11. So that should be move it to the right, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, that's 11. So the dot comes after 11 if you move it to the right 3 times. So that should be 11 milliseconds, or 11 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 seconds. So the period, let's go to for 78.4 hertz, 48 kilohertz. What's the period of a waveform of frequency 74 or 78 rather, 78 kilohertz? 78 kilohertz signal. For 78 hertz kilohertz signal, to get the period, just divide it. You have 1 over 78 kilowatts. You find the reciprocal. The reciprocal of the frequency is our period, as we've stated before. So 1 over 78 kilowatts. 78 kilowatts is 78,000. Remember that kilo is 10 raised to the power 3. So 78 multiplied by 10 raised to the power 3 gives us 78,000. So 1 over 78,000. 1 over 78. Like I said, you don't divide. When you have things like kilo, you have milli, you have micro, you have mega or giga. You don't divide. You first convert it. You get rid of the milli, the giga. Get rid of that. Take it back to the root unit, like hertz or seconds, before you divide or before you multiply. Don't divide by 78 kilohertz. Divide by hertz itself. So you get rid of the kilo, convert it back to hertz. 78,000. So 1 over 78,000 is 1.282 if you approximate. 1.282 times 10 raised to the power minus 5. In the calculator, put e raised to the power minus 5. That e in the calculator represents 10 raised to the power minus. So that's times 10 raised to the power minus 5. So 1.282 times 10 raised to the power minus 5. The unit is seconds. 1.28 times 10 raised to the power minus 5 seconds. So that is the period. You see that it's so short, it's so small. It's so small. So a 78 kilohertz AC signal just needs about 1.282 times 10 raised to the power minus 5 seconds. It needs that short time to complete one cycle. It needs just 1.282 times 10 raised to the power minus 5 seconds to have one complete cycle. So that is quite short. That is quite short. So let's see how if you can kind of convert this to maybe milliseconds or microseconds. So if we look at this, we can shift the dot to the right 3 times. 1, 2, 3, or shift it once. If you shift it once to the right once, you have 12.82 times 10 raised to the power minus 1. The minus that no, not minus. Okay, minus 6 in total. If I'm skipping a step there, minus 6 seconds. That is one way of looking at it. Should be not milliseconds. It should be microseconds. Micro is 10 raised to the power minus 3. Milli is 10 raised to the power minus. Milli is 10 raised to the power minus 3. Micro is 10 raised to the power minus 6. So 12 times 12.82 microseconds. Micro, the symbol for micro, let's check some Greek characters. Not symbol. Let's go to symbol. Under Greek and Coptic characters, the symbol, I think mu. Mu is a character. Mu or mu or whatever it is called. Mu, where's mu? Mu, where are you? That's not mu, I think. Look at the Greek characters. You have lambda. That's lambda. This is mu. So you click on it, you see small letter mu is a Greek small letter mu or mu. There's no idea. It's mu. There's a small letter lambda. So mu. Mu is the symbol for micro. Insert. Close. So micro, that's mu. Microseconds. So 12.82 microseconds. That is how long it takes for one complete cycle to be formed for a 78 kilohertz AC signal or AC waveform. So a 78 kilohertz AC waveform needs just 12.82 microseconds. It needs just 12.82 microseconds in order to form one complete cycle. And that complete cycle, we know, is it rises from 0 volts to a maximum volt, that's V peak. Then from maximum voltage, V peak, to it returns back to 0, and then goes to minus V peak and returns back to 0. So it does that in just 12.82 microseconds. That's short. So let's go to the next one. Let's determine the period of a 789.59 megahertz AC signal. Let's determine the period of a 789.59 megahertz waveform. To do that, we just simply find the reciprocal 1 over 789.59 megahertz. Like I said, before you start dividing, get rid of the mega, convert it back to just hertz. Don't divide with the mega intact, you're going to have a wrong value. So that's 1 divided by 789.59. Now mega is 10 to the power 6. That's 10 to the power, mega is 10 to the power 6, and that is 6 zeros. Times 10 to the power 6 is 60. Remember that kilo is times 10 to the power 3. Kilo is times 10 to the power 3. Mega is times 10 to the power 6. When we are dealing with kilos, we move the point to the right 3 times. And times 10 to the power 6. Now we move the point to the right 6 times. So 5, 9, and then 4 zeros after that. 5, 9, and then 4 zeros. 4 zeros after that. So that is we divide that, we get a calculator. 1 divided by 7, 8, 9, 5, 9, 0, 0, 0, 4 zeros equal to 1.266 times 10 to the power minus 9 equal to 1.267 if it's approximate times 10 raised to the power minus 9 seconds. Okay. I have a chicken friend here. Please excuse the background noise. Okay. Yeah. In seconds, we can convert that to nanoseconds. 10 raised to the power minus 6 is nano. 10 raised to the power minus 3 is milli. 10 raised to the power minus 6 is micro. Then 10 raised to the power minus 9 is nano. So that's 1.26 nanoseconds. 1.267 nanoseconds. 1.267 nanoseconds. So you can write it in full nanoseconds, or you can use the symbol ns. Nano, the symbol for nano is n, the symbol for second is s, so ns, or you can write it in full nanoseconds, 1.26. So it needs just 1.267 nanoseconds to complete one full complete cycle. So let's go to the period of a 9.27 gigahertz waveform. This is around the frequency of 5G. 5G is actually much higher than this. You can have 5G signals as high as 50 gigahertz. So this is around the range for 5G telecommunication network generally, and the gigahertz range, which is quite high, and it's why there's so much fear around 5G networks. So let's determine the period. Just divide or find the reciprocal of 9.27 gigahertz. So 5G is not exactly 9.27, but it's around this range. It's around this range. I can't remember the exact value, but I know it's in the gigahertz range. So it's not too far from 9.27. So 1 divided by 9.27 giga is 10 raised to the power 9. Giga is 10 raised to the power 9. Mega is 10 raised to the power 6. And kilo is 10 raised to the power 3. So you need to be familiar with these terms. So 9.27 giga. Now, giga is 10 raised to the power 9. And that's 9. You move the floating point to the right 9 times. That'll be 9, 2, 9, 2, 7. You have other, you keep on moving it. That's 7 zeros. 7 zeros and then 2, 7. 2, 7 and then 7 zeros. That's 9. You move the floating point to the right 9 times. So that is 9 billion, if I'm right. 9 billion 270 million complete cycles in 1 second. So 1 divided by that by 9 billion 270 million. So if you divide that, you get how many? So that is 1.0787 times 10 raised to the power minus 10 seconds. That is how long it takes for that high frequency signal to have a complete cycle. It just needs 1.0 something times 10 raised to the power minus 10. 1.079 times 10 raised to the power minus 10. 10 raised to the power minus 10. Minus 10 seconds. That is all it needs to have a complete cycle. And that is the period. So let's see. If I shift the floating point, I shift it to the right twice. I have 107.9. I shift it to the right twice. 107.9 if I'm right. Yeah. Multiply by 10 raised to the power minus 2. That's because I move it to the right twice. So we still have 10 raised to the power minus 10 existing, waiting somewhere. So let's still write that 10 raised to the power minus 2. 10 raised to the power 10 raised to the power minus 2. Sorry, minus 10 rather. Sorry. Waiting. So we'll combine the 10 raised to the power minus 2 and 10 raised to the power minus 10 using simple laws of indices. That gives us minus 12. 10 raised to the power minus 12. 10 raised to the power minus 12 seconds. Now 10 raised to the power minus 12 is pico. 10 raised to the power minus 9 is nano. 10 raised to the power minus 6 is micro. 10 raised to the power minus 3 is milli. So 10 raised to the power minus 12 is pico. That's picoseconds. 107.9 picoseconds. So that is how long this very high frequency signal, 99.27 gigahertz, that is how long it needs to have or to make a complete cycle. So short. Is why people are so afraid of its penetrative power. That if the period is so short, won't it be higher? Won't the penetrative force be high? Generally, the shorter the period, the higher the penetrative power. X-rays are X-rays have very, very short. X-rays, gamma rays, they have very, very short period. That is why they are able to penetrate to physical objects. But you don't need to worry about that. 5G's frequency is not that high. It's not up to the frequency of X-rays. So, but we can see that gigahertz signals have very, very short period. They have a complete cycle in a very, very short time, picoseconds. That is quite short. So let's see. Next exercise. What is the frequency of the AC voltages or the following AC voltages? Their respective periods are 10 seconds, 0.999 seconds, and the rest. So let's recall that the formula for period is 1 over frequency. We just did that now. We just examined that now, that the period is 1 over frequency. Thus, if you find separate the formula, frequency is 1 over period. Frequency is 1 over period. You find separate the formula. So now that we have the period, we can now determine the frequency. So if you have the period of a signal, that is, if you know how long it takes the signal to have one complete cycle, you can determine the frequency. So for a 10 seconds, for a 10 seconds period signal, like I said, you can either use the symbol for second, which is S, or you can write the unit in full, seconds. So for an AC signal of 10, that's 10 seconds period, that is, it needs about 10 seconds to have one complete cycle. That's a pretty slow signal. You should expect that the frequency will be low. So you have 1 over 10 seconds. I think that should be 0.1 if I'm right. 0.1 hertz. 0.1 hertz. Okay, let's confirm with calculator just to be sure. 1 divided by 10, that's 0.1 if I'm right. Yeah. So 0.1 hertz. 0.1 hertz. H Z, capital H, small z. That's how to write hertz. You don't write, they're not both small, they're not both capital. H is capital, the Z is small. So 0.1 hertz. So 0.1 hertz, that is a very slow signal. So let's go for the next one. 0.099 seconds period waveform. So if you have a wave that has a period of 0.099 seconds, what is the frequency? That is, if it takes the signal 0.099 seconds, this is quite a short time. If it takes it that short period of time to have one complete cycle, what is the frequency? So if you move the dots to the right 3 times, 1, 2, 3, we have 99 times 10 to the power minus 3, because we move the dot to the right 3 times, times minus 3 seconds. That is, remember that 10 to the power minus 3 is milli, so that should be 99 milliseconds. ms. You write it as ms, or you can write it in full as milliseconds. So 99 milliseconds. So it takes the signal 99 milliseconds to have one complete cycle. But let's do that. We don't actually need it to write it in milliseconds. Remember that we want to divide, we need it in seconds. We don't need the milliseconds. So 0.099 seconds. So we use the seconds that we don't have to convert it to milliseconds. So we divide it, we find the reciprocal while it's still in seconds, not after we converted it to milliseconds. So 1 divided by 0.099 seconds. So whatever answer we get, whatever value we get, that's 10.10 rather. That is our frequency. So it's 10.10 hertz frequency. So let's go for the next signal. It has 87 milliseconds period. This means that it needs 87 milliseconds in order to have one complete cycle. So 87 milliseconds, remember that I said milli is 10 to the power minus 3. So that's 87 times 10 to the power minus 3 seconds. 87 times 10 to the power minus 3 seconds. And that is because if you move the dots behind, move it to the left rather 3 times. 1, 2, 3, move it to the left 3 times. That will be 0.087 seconds. 0.087 seconds. So the frequency is just the reciprocal. 1 divided by 0.087 seconds. Remember, you cannot divide. You must not divide while it's still in milliseconds form. You have to convert it back to seconds. So 1 divided by 0.087 11.49 hertz. So 11.49 hertz is the frequency of the signal. Let's go to the next signal. Next signal, microseconds. I used the symbol mu, the Greek symbol mu, for microseconds. So 38 microsecond signal. Remember, micro is 10 to the power minus 6. So 38 times 10 raised to the power minus 6 seconds. 38 times 10 raised to the power minus 6 seconds. So you move the floating point to the left 6 times. That's 4 zeros to the left. 0.0006 4 zeros 38. So 1 divided by 0.000038. 4 zeros and 38. 1 divided by 0.00040 zeros and 38. That gives us 26,315 points. You can just copy. You can actually copy and paste just to save us time. You can just copy and paste. Copy from the calculator screen. You approximate 79 hertz. So if you move the floating point to the left 3 times, that would be 26.32. So, and because you move it to the left 3 times, that's times 10 to the power 3. Remember, 10 to the power 3 is kilo, so that's kilowatts. So 26.32 kilowatts. So the last but not least, 9.97 nanoseconds. 9.97 nanosecond signal. Remember, nano is 10 to the power minus 9. 10 to the power minus 9 seconds. So to find the frequency of a signal that needs just 9.97 nanoseconds to have one complete cycle, to find the frequency of that kind of signal, just simply find the reciprocal of its period, that is 1 over the period. So if you move the cursor to the left 9 times, you have 8 zeros because take care of 9, the single 9 there. So 0.000008 zeros, then 997. So 1 divided by that gives us 100,300,902. Yes, let us copy the screen. Copy, enter, equal to paste. 1 divided by 0.000080 zeros 997 seconds. 1 divided by that equal to, let's paste. So if I approximate, that will be 71. Let's approximate. So hertz, that's unit. So let's see, if we move the cursor to the left, how many times? Let's move it to the left. 1 2 3 4 5 6 6. Let's say it's okay. 6. So usually we do it standard in standard intervals of 3. You move it 3 times, you move it 6 times or 9 times or 12 times in intervals of 3. So 100.3 times 10 to the power 6 hertz. So if you're going to move in your dots, we do it in intervals of 3. Either I move it 3 times or 6 times or 9 times or 12 times. So move it 6 times, that is no, not kilo, it's mega actually. Sorry about that. It's mega. I think I'll correct that later. So determine the correct. Go to the next one. 10 raised to power 9 is giga. 10 raised to power 6 is mega. In the last example I just solved, it's actually it's mega, not kilo. Sorry about that. So let's quickly go to the next. Say determine the current flowing through the circuit. I want to draw the circuit. If I have a voltage source, a power source, and the filament, you want to determine the current flowing through the filament and the power consumed by the filament load. So one of the assignments I gave in module 1 is similar to this. Let's get our measuring instruments, ammeter. We want to measure the current flowing through the filament. Click connect, click connect, click drag, click click connect. Right click, let's change the properties, or let's leave it as 1.5. Now I want to adjust the resistance of this, but there's no option in LiveWire to adjust the resistance of the filament. In the assignment I gave you, I put a resistor value there. I put an arbitrary value for resistance. I'm trying to run the simulation now by adjusting the resistance value, but LiveWire doesn't have that option, which is quite unfortunate. So it means that whatever resistance value they've given it, they give it a fixed resistance value, and they're not allowing us to change it. Let's try for signal lamp. Let's see if the signal lamp, another bulb, another kind of indicator, the same thing. It doesn't have an option to change the default resistance. Let's try another output component in buzzer. It doesn't have resistance. Doesn't have option to change the default resistance value. Let's try electric motor. The same thing. No option to change the resistance value. Well, that is one advantage of Proteus. In Proteus you can change all that, but I guess in LiveWire they've hard coded it so that you can't edit it, you can't alter the internal resistance of some loads, some resistive loads or inductive loads. Okay, let's use a resistor, since we want to match, we want to have control over the value of the resistance, the resistance value of the load. So we will still use the filament bulb or filament lamp, but for now let's first start by using the resistor of let's remove the kilo, just ohms, maybe 5 ohms. So a 5 ohms load, a 5 ohms resistive load. I was thinking of editing the filament lamp to have a 5 ohm resistance, but since we can't do that in this particular virtual laboratory, you could probably do that if you use Proteus, but let's stick with LiveWire for now. And so we want to determine the current flowing through this load, a 5 ohm load. So if we could edit the filament lamp to have 5 ohm resistance, the current to consume is still the same current that a 5 ohm resistor would consume. The fact that one is a resistor and one is a filament lamp, it doesn't matter, they will consume the same current as long as they have the same resistance. So from Ohm's law, V equals IR, we've stated that several times thus far in this video lecture series. V equals IR. And because you want to obtain current, you make I substitute a formula, I equals V over R. Our V is 1.5 volts and our R is 5 ohms. So if we divide that, we get 0.3. So 0.3, the unit of current is amperes. Or you can just use A, capital A for the unit. Or you can write as amperes in full. So that is 0.3 amps, or if you move the point to the right 3 times, you have 300. That's 300 milliamps, or 300 times 10 to the power minus 3. So let's run the simulation. Oh, that's 230.7. Actually, the current in the simulation is actually quite different. It's a lot different compared to the calculated value. So it means that there's something wrong. There's a drop. There's a loss somewhere. In actual fact, in theory it should be 300, but in practice it's actually 200. It's one of the discrepancies that you have between calculated value and measured value. So I don't know if that is a bug in LiveWire or there's a drop somewhere. Okay, let's go back to the filament lamp. Now filament lamp is consuming 94.40 milliamps. That's the current this filament lamp is consuming. Now we can actually determine the internal resistance of the filament lamp. Now we are unable to, we don't know what it is. LiveWire didn't give us the option to change it or to even know what that internal resistance, the resistance of the filament lamp, it didn't allow us to determine, to see it. So we can actually calculate it. We can I won't use the word first. We can actually determine it ourselves by using Ohm's law. So from Ohm's law, we can make R sub a formula. R is now V over I. So the voltage across the filament lamp divided by the current through it. The current through it is 94.40. So if we do that, we will get 94. You will get the resistance. So that we will know what default value live wire has set the filament lamp to, the default resistance that the programmers or designers of live wire have set the internal resistance of the filament lamp to. So milli is 10 raised to power minus 10 raised to power minus 10 raised to power minus 3. So that's 94.40 times 10 raised to power minus 3 amps. That's the current flowing through the filament lamp. So so R equals to 1.5 divided by, if you move the cursor to the left 3 times, that should be 0.09440, if I'm right. So move the cursor like I stated. This is the floating point. The cursor, move it to the right 3 times, or to the left rather 3 times. 1, 2, 3. The first 2 times covers a 94. The third time adds an extra 0 to the left. So that's 0.094 amperes. That's the current. So we will need the surface of our calculator. We have 1.5 divided by 0.0944. That gives us 15.889 or 15.89 ohms. So that is the internal resistance of this filament bulb. Internal resistance that live wire is not allowing us to see or change is about 15.89 ohms. So let's insert this as a symbol for ohms. It's also among it's omega, the Greek letter, capital letter omega. That's ohms. So the filament lamp is actually a 15.89 ohm load. You could not change the value, but we can determine, or we're able to determine what the internal resistance is. So let's try for signal lamp. The signal lamp connects. So let's see if we can determine the internal resistance of the signal lamp that live wire has made their default signal lamp. You see, the current flowing through the signal lamp is quite different. It's 14.78, which means that the resistance of the filament lamp will be different. The resistance will actually be higher. The lower the current flowing through a load, the lower the current flowing through, the higher the resistance, and vice versa. And the lower or the higher the current, the lower the resistance. So since the current is lower, it means that definitely the resistance of this new lamp is resistance is higher than that of the filament lamp. So using Ohm's law, R equals V over I as usual. 15 divided by 14.78 milliamps. We've said milli 10 raised to power minus 3. So that would be 0.01478 amps, just like we did for the filament lamp earlier. And that will be equal to, let's calculator, 1.5 divided by 0.01478, and that will be equal to 101.488 or 101.49 ohms. So we see here that the resistance is a lot higher, but let's confirm 1.5. Let's do that again, so we are sure that we didn't make a mistake. 1.5 divided by 0.01478 equal to 101.49 ohms. Copy this omega symbol, Greek omega symbol, and paste. So minimize. So for the filament lamp, it was 15.89 ohms. The filament lamp was a 15.89 ohm, and then the resistor was, let's remove the kilo, 5. Now this is 5 ohms. We moved from a 5 ohm load to a 15.89 ohm to a 1.149 ohm load. So let's look at the power consumed. That's the second part of the equation. It says calculate the power consumed. That power is P equals to IV. We stated that last lecture. P equals to IV. That is one formula. Another way of doing it, and that formula is let's get a superscript. I square R equal to V. Let's copy. Let's replicate that. So V square over okay, wrong. V square. Let's remove the superscript. V square over R. Let's go back to superscript again. V square over R. So V square over R. P equal to IV equal to I square R equal to V square over R. They are all the same. So let's use, regardless of whichever one you use, the power consumed. So we want to get the power consumed by the resistor, by the 5 ohm resistor. So remember that we said that the current flowing through the resistor was 0.3 amps. So you multiply that by the voltage across it, which was 1.5 volts. Multiply by 1.5 volts. That should give us 0.3 multiplied by 1.5, which is 0.45 watts. The unit for power is watts. You can write it as W, or you can write it in full watts. So P equals IV was what we used to generate 0.3 multiplied by 1.5, which gave us 0.45 watts. If we had used I square R instead, it would have been the same. Now 0.2 is our current. 0.3 square multiplied by R. Okay, let's just do this straight direct. 0.3 square is 0.09. So 0.09 multiplied by, what is our R? Our R is 5 ohms. 5 ohms for the 5 ohm resistor. Multiplied by 5. 0.09 multiplied by 5. That's 0.45. So that is the same thing. It's actually the same thing. Still, so if we had used I square R instead of IV, we will still have gotten the correct power rating, the correct power consumed by the 5 ohm load. So watts, that's right, watts. So you can write the watts in full, or you use W for the symbol. Once again, please ignore the background sound. There are so many animals here that want to learn basic measurements, electronics measurements. Okay, V square over R. V square over R is the next formula we'll confirm or test to show that we can use as an alternative. V square 1.5 square is 2.25 divided by, divided by, don't multiply. 2.2, not 2.23, 2.25. 2.25 divided by 5. 2.25 divided by 5. 2.25 divided by 5. That is 0.45. Still the same power consumed. So regardless of what formula we use, whether you use IV or you use I square R or you use V square over R, you should get, all things being equal, you should get the same power rating value. So the 5 ohm resistor consumed 0.45 watts of power. That is how much power that single resistor consumed. 0.45 watts. So what is 0.45 watts? If you move the point to the right 3 times, that will give us 450. 450 times 10 raised to power minus 3 watts. Remember that my 10 raised to power minus 3 is milli. So that's 450 milliwatts. So the resistor, the 5 ohm resistor consumed 450 milliwatts. So power consumed by, let's compute the symbol, omega symbol, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So power consumed by the 5 ohm resistor load. So the power consumed by the 5 ohm resistor, load resistor, is equal to that. Okay. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So you want to check the power consumed by the other guy, that is the filament lamp. We've determined the current of, sorry, we've determined the resistance, the internal resistance that live wire hid away from us of the output of the filament lamp. So consumed by filament lamp, power consumed by filament lamp. So that is this signal lamp. Let's go back to filament lamp. Click, Control paste, click, connect, click, 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 click. So like we determined before, that the current flowing through was 94.40 milliamps. Measuring. So let's measure the voltage across. Actually, I think there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a slight problem here. I just emphasized it. Yeah, I was right. Now, 1.36 volts compared to we've been using we used 1.5 volt before. So it's a slight issue. I don't know if it's a bug, but according to LiveWire, some voltage dropped just before the filament lamp. There's a drop in voltage, and it should not be. It should be the same. Now, if I measure the voltage across the ammeter, let's see if measure. Now this is 9.94 microvolts. That is so small. It's infinitesimal. That should not be enough to account for the great drop from 1.5 to 1.36. Ideally, in the ideal case, the voltage across the lamp should be 1.5 volts, but for some reason voltage drop. I'm trying to see if probably you can measure across the cable. There is writing 0 volts. So but according to LiveWire, the voltage drop between here and here, it dropped to 1.36 volts. So actually we are supposed to use 1.36 volts, not 1.5 volts, if you are to follow the follow the measured value. So sometimes there's a difference between measured value and calculated value. So but let's just use calculated value. If you are running this practical in an actual lab, physical lab, you would have used the measure value, and then we will now see the difference. So we plot a graph between your measure value and calculated value. Calculated value is an ideal case. There is no drop anywhere. In ideal case, the voltage across the lamp should be 1.5 volts, but for some reason, the measure value is a lot lower. And that is why you run experiments and compare your experimental value with your calculated value. Compare measure value with calculated value. So let's use P equals IV, because we have I by default, we had I and we had V. We calculated R by ourselves. So if we try and obtain the power consumed by the lamp by using P equals IV, our I is 94.4 milliamp, and so if we use 1.36 as our voltage, if we decide to use the measured voltage, not calculated voltage, if we use the measured voltage, 1.9 multiplied by This should be 0.0944. So this should be the power consumed. The power consumed should be this. But since we've already started using the calculated value, we use the calculated value to get the resistors or the resistance. So let's just be consistent and use the calculated value and not measured value. If you run a physical experiment, I'm sure that we will get a higher measured voltage than 1.36. It's what happens sometimes when you run experiments. The measured value sometimes there'll be some differences, and that is where error comes in. Different kinds of error and things like that. But for now, let's just leave that. So let's still use 1.5 volts. According to the live wire simulation, there was a drop between the voltage source and the load, and the only thing that was in between the load and the voltage source was the ammeter. The ammeter should not take up as much voltage. It should not cause that much voltage drop. It means that there's something wrong with the power source or something like that. So, well, let's ignore that minor bug and make use of the actual value and not the measured value. So if we use the actual value, we get 0.1416 watts, which is something as 141.6 times 10 to the power minus 3 watts. Remember that 10 to the power minus 3 is milli. So that's 141.6 milliwatts. You can write it in full, or you can use the symbol milli. Symbol of milli is M, small m. Symbol of watt is W. I think it's small w. Oh, I think it's capital W actually. I don't know. It should be capital W or small w. It should be capital W. I think it's capital W. Okay. So ideal case. So all the calculations we did under the filament lamp, the way we calculated the resistance of the filament lamp was ideal scenario. Ideal scenario where there are no losses. Like there's a loss here. When we ran the experiment in the virtual laboratory, there's a loss here. But let's based on live wire, let's take care of the measured value. Let's take care of that error actually. Based on live wire virtual laboratory. So simulation. So in ideal case, we've done for ideal case. Let's make some alterations actually. Let's for the signal lamp, let's use the live wire measurement for the signal lamp. For the signal lamp, the voltage across is 1.48. The drop is not that drastic. It's just 1.48. The drop is not drastic. So let's, instead of 1.5, let's use 1.48. That's a small drop, and that drop is not that bad. Unlike the one that was 1.36. So 1.48. It means that our resistance will change. The resistance 1.48 divided by 0.00014. That's 100.14 ohms. So this is the resistance, the internal resistance of the signal lamp based on measured value, not calculated value. So we are using simulation. We are not using ID case again. So power consumed by the lamp based on the simulation, measured value from the simulation. So P equals to, the voltage is not, we're supposed to use, the current is 14.78, that's still constant. The voltage is 1.48, not 1.5. 1.5 volts is the calculated value. Now the measured value based on the simulation is 1.48. So this is not ideal case now. This is now the measured value. This is the practical case, and it's based on the live wire simulation. So if you multiply that, normally you're supposed to use 1.5 if you are dealing with ideal case. But for the signal lamp, you're not using ideal case. For the filament lamp, you use the ideal scenario. So for the signal lamp, for the filament lamp, we use ideal scenario. For signal lamp, we are using the measured value based on the simulation, live wire simulation. So if you multiply that, you got 0.02187 watts. I think that should be capital W. Watts. As if you move the 14 points to the right 3 times, that's 2 21, yeah, move it to the right 3 times. Click, move it to right 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 21.87. So 21.87 times 10 to the power minus 3 watts. That's 10 to the power minus 3 watts. I remember I said that minus 10 to the power minus 3 is milli. So that's 21.87 milliwatts. 21.87 milliwatts. You can write it in full, or you can just use the symbol small m and capital W. That should be capital W. Sorry about that. 21.87 milliwatts. Or is it small w? I don't know. I keep on. In some textbooks, I've seen small w. I've seen capital W. So I don't know. Probably I'll confirm that and get back to you on that. Yeah. So that's basically all about that. We've considered ideals, case, and measured value, and why sometimes you don't just stick with calculated value. Sometimes you just have to run the experiment, and usually when we run an experiment, you see some little discrepancies from what you calculated. Like the measured value, sometimes most of the time there's always a little difference between the measured value and the calculated value, and it's why we plot graphs. We plot graphs to compare the calculated value from the measured value. So far, I've not plotted any graph, and I might not plot any graph throughout this video lecture series. I might wait till when things resume back to normal and we get back to the physical laboratory to make those plots. So we've considered ideal scenario where you use calculated values, ideal values if there is no unexplained drop in voltage, and when you use measured values where there are drops due to internal resistance of the voltage source itself that is not apparent, it's not shown in the circuit. The internal resistance is not shown in the circuit. The voltage source itself is dropping for some reason due to its lack of capability to produce its rated voltage. It's supposed to produce 1.5 volt, but for some reason it's supplying 1.36 volts, something like that. So there are little discrepancies between our measured value and calculated value, and we treated both cases. So we'll look through the assignments, try and solve them, and I will see you, or we'll continue in the next module, module 3 of this video lecture series. So thanks for paying attention.